I found the phone in a puddle outside Romano's, the kind of upscale Italian restaurant where reservations require a firstborn child, and the waiters speak in hushed reverence. It was face down in the gutter, screen cracked like a spiderweb, rain pooling in the crevices. I almost didn't pick it up, but there was something about the case, expensive, leather-bound, monogrammed with elegant initials, E.V., that made me hesitate. Someone would be looking for this. Someone who could afford to lose a phone worth more than my monthly rent probably had the resources to retrieve it. The screen flickered to life when I pressed the button, surprisingly functional despite the damage. No passcode. That should have been my first warning that something was wrong. People who carry phones like this don't leave them unlocked. The rain was coming down harder now, turning the Chicago streets into rivers of neon reflections. I ducked under the awning of a closed boutique, wiping the screen with my sleeve. The home screen showed a string of missed calls, dozens of them, all from the same contact. Don't answer. My thumb hovered over the phone icon. It wasn't my business. I should have taken it to the restaurant, left it with the hostess, gone home to my cramped apartment, and forgotten about it. But curiosity has always been my fatal flaw. The thing that got me kicked out of 3 journalism programs and stuck working as a fact-checker for a gossip website that barely paid minimum wage. I opened the messages instead. The texts were fragmented, desperate. Timestamp stretching back over the past 2 hours. Unknown number. Elena, please. I know you're reading these. Unknown number. He's going to find out. You need to get out of there now. Unknown number. The East Side warehouse. Tomorrow night. I have proof of everything. We can end this. Unknown number. Elena, answer me. My pulse quickened. The messages had an urgency that felt visceral, dangerous. I scrolled further back, finding older conversations coded language, references to shipments and collections, names I didn't recognize but that felt heavy with meaning. Then I saw it. A message from 2 days ago. Don't answer. If anything happens to me, look in the lining of my jewelry box. Red velvet. He'll never think to check there. My hands started shaking. I told myself it was the cold, the rain soaking through my jacket, but I knew better. This wasn't some domestic drama or celebrity affair. This was something darker, something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I should have dropped the phone, should have left it in that puddle and walked away. Instead, I scrolled to the deleted messages folder. There were hundreds of them, all systematically erased within the past 6 hours. Most were corrupted, unrecoverable, but a few fragments remained like ghosts. Unknown number. Told you what he's capable of. Unknown number. The detective said they found evidence. Unknown number. Victor won't let you walk away from this. Victor. The name landed in my chest like a stone. I'd heard it before, whispered in the break room at work, mentioned in true crime podcasts I listened to while riding the train. Victor Volkov, Chicago's Shadow King, the man who owned half the city's politicians and all of its sins. A name that existed in the space between rumor and nightmare. Thunder cracked overhead, and I jumped, nearly dropping the phone. That's when I heard the footsteps, heavy, deliberate, moving toward me through the rain. I looked up to see a man standing at the edge of the awning's shelter, water streaming off a black wool coat that probably cost more than my car. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair slicked back from a face that could have been carved from marble, beautiful in the way that dangerous things often are. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that suggested violence and control, and eyes so dark they looked black in the dim light. But it was his expression that froze me in place. Not anger, not surprise, just a calm, patient assessment, like a wolf deciding whether its prey was worth the chase. "That's not yours," he said. His voice was low, accented Russian. I thought with an edge that made it clear this wasn't a request. My fingers tightened around the phone. "I found it. I was just trying to return it?" He took a step closer, and I caught the scent of expensive cologne and something darker underneath. Gunpowder, maybe, or just danger. How philanthropic. "Look, I don't want any trouble. I'll just open the messages," he interrupted, his gaze dropping to the phone in my hand. "Read through someone else's private conversations?" Very noble. Heat flooded my face, but beneath the embarrassment was a growing sense of dread. He'd been watching me, long enough to know exactly what I'd been doing. "It was unlocked," I said, hating how defensive I sounded. The messages were concerning. I thought maybe someone needed help. Something flickered across his face, amusement, maybe, or something darker. And did they need help? The question hung between us, loaded with meaning I couldn't quite grasp. Behind him, I noticed a black SUV idling at the curb, windows tinted, engine purring like a predator at rest. I don't know, I admitted. Who's Elena? The change in him was instantaneous. The casual menace evaporated, replaced by something cold and absolutely lethal. He moved faster than I would have thought possible for a man his size, closing the distance between us in 2 strides. His hand shot out, not grabbing the phone but my wrist, a grip that was firm without being painful, a warning without violence. "Give me the phone," he said quietly, "and forget you ever saw it." I should have. God, I should have handed it over and run. But I was looking into his eyes now, close enough to see they weren't black at all, but a deep, storm cloud gray, and there was something in them that looked almost like anguish. "She's dead, isn't she?" I whispered. "Elena." His jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath skin that looked carved from stone. For a long moment, he didn't answer, just studied my face like he was memorizing it, cataloging every feature for some future reckoning. Then he released my wrist, took the phone from my suddenly nerveless fingers, and stepped back into the rain. "Go home," he said. "Forget this night happened. Forget you ever heard that name." He turned to leave, and I knew with absolute certainty that if I let him walk away, I'd spend the rest of my life wondering what I'd stumbled into, wondering if those deleted messages really could have saved someone's life. "Wait," I called out. The messages mentioned proof. A warehouse. If someone deleted them, if someone wanted her silenced. He stopped, his back still to me, rain drumming against his shoulders. "What's your name?" he asked without turning around. "Sophia. Sophia Chen." "Well, Sophia Chen." He looked back over his shoulder, and the expression on his face sent ice down my spine. "You just made the worst mistake of your life." The SUV door opened. 2 men in dark suits emerged, their faces professionally blank. And Viktor Volkov, because I knew with bone-deep certainty that's who he was, smiled at me with all the warmth of a funeral. "Get in the car," he said softly. "We need to have a conversation about what you think you know." I didn't get in the car willingly. Let me be clear about that. When I tell this story later, if there is a later, I want the record to show that I stood there in the rain, water plastering my hair to my skull, and said, "I'm not going anywhere with you." Viktor Volkov tilted his head, studying me like I was a particularly interesting specimen under glass. "You misunderstand. That wasn't a request. And I'm not interested in whatever you think you need to explain to me. I'll forget the phone, forget the messages, forget I ever saw you. We can both walk away from this." One of the suited men, the one with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, took a step toward me. I stumbled back, my shoulder blades hitting the boutique's glass door. "Alexei," Viktor said quietly, and the man stopped mid-stride. "She's frightened enough." "I'm not frightened," I lied, hearing my voice shake. "I'm rational. And rationally, getting into a car with a stranger is a terrible idea. I'm not a stranger anymore, Sophia. You know my name." He pocketed Elena's phone and moved closer, slow and deliberate, like approaching a spooked animal. "And I know yours. I know you live in a 4th-floor walk-up on Milwaukee Avenue. I know you fact-check celebrity scandals for a digital tabloid that doesn't deserve your talents. I know your mother calls every Sunday at noon, and you never answer because you're still angry she remarried so quickly after your father died." The blood drained from my face. "How, in the time it took you to read those messages, I learned everything about you." He stopped just outside the awning's shelter, letting the rain soak him. "So let's dispense with the pretense that you have a choice here. You involved yourself in something dangerous the moment you picked up that phone. Now you have 2 options. Get in the car and let me explain why you need my protection, or refuse, and I'll have Alexei escort you anyway. Either way, we're having this conversation." My throat tightened. Behind him, the SUV's interior glowed with soft amber light, warm and inviting despite the violence it promised. Through the rain, I could see the driver watching us in the rearview mirror, face impassive. "What happened to Elena?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Something flickered across Victor's face, pain, maybe, or regret. It was gone so quickly I might have imagined it. "Get in the car, and I'll tell you." That should have been the moment I ran. Every instinct, every true crime podcast warning, every lecture about stranger danger screamed at me to bolt. But there was something in his eyes, that flash of genuine emotion beneath the calculated menace, that made me hesitate. And in that hesitation, I was lost. The car's interior smelled like leather and cedar, oppressively luxurious. Victor slid in beside me, close enough that I could feel the cold radiating from his rain-soaked coat. Alexei took the front passenger seat, and the scarred man drove. The doors locked with a soft, final click. We pulled away from the curb, and I watched the familiar streets of my neighborhood blur past, each block taking me further from safety. Elena was my wife, Victor said without preamble. She died 3 days ago. Car accident. Brake failure on Lakeshore Drive. I turned to look at him, searching for grief in that impassive face. I'm sorry. Are you? He met my gaze, and there was something sharp in his expression. You read her messages. You saw the fear. Do you think it was an accident? The messages mentioned proof. A warehouse. Someone was warning her. My lover. He said it flatly, without shame or apology. Irina. She'd been trying to convince Elena to leave me for months, filling her head with paranoid fantasies about my business, about the dangers of being married to me. My stomach twisted. So you deleted the messages? I did. He turned to look out the window, jaw tight. Elena was becoming reckless, meeting with people she shouldn't, asking questions that could get her killed. I thought if I removed Irina's influence, I could keep her safe. But you couldn't. No. The word was barely audible. I couldn't. We drove in silence for several minutes, the city giving way to darker, emptier streets. I recognized the warehouse district, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry and bodies could disappear. My pulse hammered in my throat. Where are we going? To show you why you can't walk away from this. Victor pulled Elena's phone from his pocket, scrolling through the deleted messages with practiced ease. Irina mentioned proof, evidence of my business operations. She claimed to have documentation that would destroy me. If that evidence exists, and if she stored it where she said, the jewelry box, I whispered. Red velvet lining. His head snapped toward me. You saw that message, before you deleted it. Yes. I pressed myself against the car door, suddenly very aware of how trapped I was. But I don't understand what this has to do with me. I don't have your wife's jewelry box. I don't have any evidence. I'm nobody. You're a journalist. I'm a fact-checker for a gossip site. That's not... You have the instincts of a journalist. He leaned closer, and I could smell rain and that underlying scent of gunpowder. You found a phone and immediately started digging. You saw patterns in messages that most people would have ignored. You asked the right questions. That makes you dangerous. Or useful, Alexei said from the front seat, his accent thicker than Victor's. Boss, if Irina stored evidence, we need someone who can find it. Someone who knows how to piece together stories from fragments. Victor's expression darkened. She's a civilian. She's already involved, Alexei countered. And if the Kozlov family finds out she read those messages, they won't. They might. You took her off a public street. There are cameras everywhere. If they're watching, enough. Victor's voice carried absolute authority, the kind that ended conversations and possibly lives. He turned back to me, and I saw a calculation war with something else in his eyes. Reluctance, maybe, or concern. I'm going to make you an offer, Sophia Chen, he said quietly. Help me find Irina's evidence before my enemies do, and I'll pay you more than you'd make in 10 years at that tabloid. Refuse. And I'll erase every trace of tonight from existence, including you, if necessary. My breath caught. You're threatening to kill me. I'm offering you a choice. He pulled out his phone, not Elena's. His own, and showed me a bank transfer screen. The number of zeros made my vision swim. Find the evidence. Help me understand what Elena knew. Do that, and you walk away rich enough to start a real career. Refuse. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The car pulled to a stop in front of a warehouse with boarded windows and graffitied walls. Through the windshield, I could see a single light burning in an upper window. Someone's inside, I whispered. Victor's hand moved to the gun holstered beneath his coat, a gesture so casual it made my blood run cold. Yes, he said. Someone who shouldn't be. Alexei and the driver exited first, moving with military precision. Victor opened his door, then paused, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't read. Stay in the car, Sophia. What happens next isn't something you need to see. But I was already unbuckling my seatbelt, already following him into the rain, already crossing a line I'd never be able to uncross, because through that lit window, I'd seen a shadow move, and it looked exactly like a woman. Victor's hand clamped around my wrist before I'd taken 3 steps from the car. I told you to stay inside. His voice was low, dangerous, the kind of quiet that preceded violence. There's someone up there, I said, pulling against his grip. A woman. What if it's not Elena? The words came out harsh, final. Elena is dead. I identified her body myself. Then who? A gunshot cracked through the night, and Victor yanked me down behind the SUV so fast my knees scraped against wet asphalt. My ears rang. Rain hammered against metal. Through the chaos, I heard Alexei shouting in Russian, heard returning fire, heard glass shattering somewhere above us. Victor's body covered mine, one arm wrapped around my shoulders, the other drawing his weapon with fluid precision. I could feel his heart beating against my back, steady, controlled, nothing like my own frantic rhythm. This was a trap, he said, more to himself than to me. They knew we'd come. Who? Who's they? Another shot answered, sparking off the SUV's reinforced door. Victor swore in Russian and pulled me toward the warehouse entrance, moving in a crouch. Stay behind me. Don't stop running. Don't look back. We crashed through a side door that hung off its hinges, stumbling into darkness that smelled of rust and decay. The warehouse was a cavern of shadows, abandoned machinery looming like prehistoric skeletons. Somewhere above, footsteps echoed against metal catwalks. Victor pushed me toward a concrete pillar, pressing me against it with his body while he scanned the darkness. How many? He called out in Russian. 3, maybe 4. Alexei's voice came from somewhere to our right. Northeast corner. They have the high ground. The woman? Gone. She ran when we entered. My mind was spinning, trying to piece together what was happening. You were followed, I said, the realization hitting me. Someone knew you'd come here. Someone knew about the messages, about the evidence. Irina. Victor's jaw clenched. She's playing both sides, using Elena's death to draw me out. Your lover is trying to kill you? Former lover. He checked his gun's magazine, the gesture so practiced it looked like breathing. And she's not trying to kill me. She's trying to force a meeting. The shots are warning us off, not aimed to hit. As if to prove his point, another bullet struck the pillar above our heads, showering us with concrete dust, but clearly missing by design. Viktor Volkov. A woman's voice called from the darkness, accented and mocking. Still playing hero? Still pretending you're anything but a monster? Victor's expression hardened. Irina. Where's the evidence? Safe. Her laugh echoed through the warehouse. Along with everything else Elena discovered about you. The shipments, the bribes, the bodies. Did you really think she wouldn't investigate after Mikhail disappeared? I felt Victor tense beside me. Elena knew about Mikhail? She knew everything. She was going to turn you in, Victor. To the FBI, to the press, she was going to burn your empire to the ground. Footsteps moved along the catwalk above us, deliberate and taunting. I tried to save her. All those messages, all those warnings, but you deleted them. You killed her as surely as if you'd cut the brake lines yourself. I would never, Victor's voice cracked, the first sign of genuine emotion I'd heard from him. I loved her. You loved owning her. Irina's silhouette appeared on the catwalk, backlit by the window's light. She was smaller than I'd expected, delicate even, with long dark hair and a gun held with comfortable familiarity, just like you loved owning me. But Elena wasn't like us, Victor. She still had a conscience. She still believed in right and wrong, and that got her killed. I looked up at Victor's face and saw something I hadn't expected: doubt. It flickered across his features, like lightning, there and gone, but unmistakable. You think I had her killed? His voice was barely a whisper. I think you're very good at letting other people do your dirty work. Irina started descending a metal staircase, her footsteps ringing against steel. But it doesn't matter what I think. What matters is what I can prove. What matters is that the Kozlov family knows about this meeting. They're on their way now, Victor, and they're very interested in Elena's evidence. My blood went cold. Even I knew about the Kozlovs, the rival family that had been warring with the Volkovs for control of Chicago's underworld for decades. If they got evidence of Victor's operations, you betrayed me to the Kozlovs? Victor's voice had gone deadly quiet. After everything, you chose her. Irina's composure cracked, revealing raw pain underneath. You married her. You built her a life while I stayed in the shadows, your dirty secret, your convenience. So yes, Victor, I betrayed you, just like you betrayed me. Alexei appeared from the darkness, his gun trained on Irina. Boss, we need to leave. Now. Kozlov's men will be here in minutes. But Victor was staring at Irina like he was seeing her for the first time. Did you kill Elena? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with accusation and desperation. Irina's laugh was bitter. I tried to save her, Victor. I failed. But at least I tried. What did you do? Delete messages? Erase warnings? You were so busy controlling her life that you couldn't see someone else was planning to end it. Who? I found myself asking, my voice cracking. If neither of you killed her, then who did? Both of them turned to look at me, as if they'd forgotten I was there. Irina's eyes narrowed, assessing. Who are you? Nobody, Victor said quickly. A civilian who got caught in the crossfire. A civilian wearing very expensive journalism credentials around her neck, Irina countered, gesturing to my press badge, the one I'd forgotten I was wearing from earlier today, and asking very smart questions. Did you bring her to help find the evidence, Victor? How pragmatic of you. Car engines roared outside, followed by shouting in Russian. The Kozlovs had arrived. Victor grabbed my hand, pulling me toward a back exit. We're leaving. Now. The evidence, Irina called after us. Find it before they do, Victor. Because when the Kozlovs discover what Elena knew, they won't just come for you. They'll come for everyone you've ever cared about. Everyone who knows your secrets. She looked directly at me when she said it. An understanding hit like ice water. I wasn't just a witness anymore. I was leverage. Victor seemed to realize it at the same moment. His hand tightened around mine, and when I looked up at his face, I saw something that terrified me more than the gunshots or the approaching enemies. I saw possession. Stay close to me, he said, his voice rough. From this moment on, you don't leave my sight. You don't trust anyone. You belong to me now, Sophia Chen. For better or worse. The back door exploded inward, and men in black tactical gear poured through like a flood. Victor pulled me into the darkness, and I realized with absolute certainty that my old life was over. We ran through passages I didn't know existed, maintenance tunnels beneath the warehouse, narrow and suffocating, lit only by Victor's phone flashlight. Behind us, I could hear the Kozlov men shouting, their footsteps echoing through the darkness like a death knell. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. But Victor's grip on my hand never faltered, pulling me forward with relentless determination. Here, Alexei's voice came from ahead. And suddenly we were climbing a ladder, emerging into an alley 3 blocks away. A different car waited, nondescript, practical, nothing like the luxury SUV. We tumbled inside, and the driver peeled away before the doors fully closed. I pressed my forehead against the cool window, trying to catch my breath, trying to process what had just happened. My hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them together. You're in shock, Victor said, his voice gentler than I'd heard it. That's normal. Normal? I laughed, the sound edging toward hysterical. Nothing about this is normal. I found a phone. That's all I did. I found a phone, and now I'm running from the Russian Mafia, and you're telling me I belong to you like I'm some kind of property. I was protecting you, by claiming ownership, by making it clear that harming you means war with me. He turned to face me fully, and in the passing streetlights, I could see the strain around his eyes, the tension in his jaw. The Kozlovs respect nothing but power and possession. If they think you're just a witness, they'll eliminate you. But if they believe you're mine under my protection, valuable to me, they'll think twice. How comforting, I said bitterly. I've been upgraded from nobody to human shield. His expression darkened. You're not a shield, you're... He stopped himself, jaw clenching. You're a complication I didn't need but now have to manage. Manage? Like I'm a problem to be solved. You are a problem. He said it without malice, just exhausted honesty. But you're also the only person outside my organization who knows what Irina claimed. The only person who can help me understand what Elena discovered before the Kozlovs find it first. I wanted to argue, to tell him I wanted no part of his criminal empire or his deadly family drama. But the truth was, settling into my bones like winter cold. I was already too deep. The moment I'd stepped out of that car, the moment I'd followed him into the warehouse, I'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Where are we going? I asked quietly. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they won't look. The safe house was a penthouse apartment, in a building so expensive I'd only ever walked past it, never imagining I'd step inside. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Chicago skyline. The city spread below like a constellation of broken promises. Victor moved through the space with practiced familiarity, checking rooms, securing exits. Alexei disappeared too, sweep for surveillance, whatever that meant. I stood in the living room, dripping rainwater onto marble floors, feeling utterly displaced. "There are clothes in the bedroom," Victor said, returning with 2 glasses of amber liquid. "Shower, change. We need to talk strategy, and you need to not be in shock." I took the glass whiskey, expensive, burning, and downed it in one gulp. Dutch courage. "Whose clothes?" "Elena's." He said it flatly, watching my reaction. This was our apartment, before we moved to the estate. The information hit harder than it should have. I was standing in a dead woman's home, wearing her life like borrowed shoes. "I can't." "You can, and you will. Unless you'd prefer to stay in wet clothes while we plan how to keep you alive." I hated that he was right. Hated the casual way he gave orders. The assumption that I'd obey. But I was cold and scared, and so far out of my depth, I couldn't see the surface anymore. The bathroom was all white marble and gold fixtures, obscenely luxurious. I stood underwater hot enough to burn, watching pink-tinged rivers circle the drain, scraped knees from when Victor had pulled me down behind the SUV. Evidence of violence on my body, proof this wasn't a nightmare I could wake from. Elena's clothes fit surprisingly well. Dark jeans, a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my rent. I caught my reflection in the mirror and barely recognized myself, hair dark and dripping, eyes too wide, wearing a dead woman's armor. When I emerged, Victor was standing at the windows, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Russian. He'd changed too, into dark slacks and a crisp white shirt that somehow made him look more dangerous, not less, more controlled, more like the monster Irina had called him. He ended the call when he saw me. Better? Not really. I wrapped my arms around myself. "Your men find anything?" The warehouse was clean. Irina took whatever evidence she had, if it exists at all. She could be bluffing. "You don't believe that?" "No." He poured himself another drink, movements tight with frustration. "Elena was meticulous. If she was investigating me, she'd have documentation, records, proof, and if Irina has it, the Kozlovs will pay her handsomely for it," I finished. "Unless we find it first." "But how? You said this was your apartment. If Elena hid something here..." "I've already looked. Nothing." He turned to face me, and the defeat in his expression was startling. "I've torn apart every property we owned together. The estate, her office, her car, what was left of it. Either she hid it somewhere I'd never think to look, or Irina already has it." I thought about those deleted messages, about the red velvet jewelry box, about a woman desperate enough to defy her Mafia husband. What about places that were just hers? Places you wouldn't know about? Elena didn't keep secrets from me. Except she did. I moved closer, drawn by the raw pain in his voice despite every instinct screaming to keep my distance. "She was investigating you. Meeting with people behind your back. She had an entire life you knew nothing about." His hand tightened around his glass. "She loved me, maybe. But she also feared you." I was close enough now to see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, the shadow of stubble along his jaw. Close enough to be dangerous. "Victor, what did Elena discover? What could possibly be worth all this?" He looked at me for a long moment, something warring behind those storm cloud eyes. Then he set down his glass and pulled his phone from his pocket, scrolling through photos until he found what he was looking for. The image showed a young man, early 20s, with Victor's dark hair and sharp features. He was laughing in the photo, carefree, alive. "My brother," Victor said quietly. "Mikhail. He disappeared 6 months ago. Elena thought I had something to do with it." The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. "Did you?" "I don't know. The admission seemed to cost him everything. There are parts of my business I keep compartmentalized. Things even I don't fully control. Elena believed I'd sacrificed Mikhail for power, for territory. She believed I was capable of fratricide. Were you?" He met my eyes, and what I saw there stopped my breath. Not denial, not anger, just terrible, consuming doubt. "I need to know," he said. "I need to find that evidence, not to protect myself, but to know the truth about what I've become." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, and all color drained from his face. "What?" I asked. "What is it?" He turned the phone toward me. The message was from an unknown number, but the image attached made my blood run cold. It was Elena's jewelry box, red velvet, just as described, and it was sitting on my apartment's kitchen table. "They know where you live," Victor said, his voice deadly calm. "They've been in your home." The drive to my apartment felt like descending into hell. Victor sat beside me in rigid silence, jaw clenched, one hand resting on the gun holstered beneath his jacket. Alexei drove with predatory focus, taking corners too fast, running lights when the streets were clear. Every minute felt like an hour. "They want us to come," I said, my voice hollow. "It's obviously a trap." "Of course it's a trap." Victor didn't look at me. "But the evidence is there, and they know we can't resist. So we're just gonna walk into it?" "No." He finally turned to face me, and the cold calculation in his eyes made me shiver. "We're going to turn their trap against them." "But Sophia," his hand caught mine, stopping my nervous fidgeting. "When we get there, you do exactly as I say. No improvising, no heroics, no journalist instincts. Understand?" I wanted to pull away from his touch, from the way his thumb traced absent patterns against my palm. Wanted to hate how that simple contact made me feel, simultaneously safer and more threatened. "I understand," I lied. My apartment building looked exactly as I'd left it that morning a lifetime ago. The same flickering hallway light on the 3rd floor. The same faint smell of Mrs. Kowalski's cabbage soup. The same crooked welcome mat outside my door, except my door was slightly ajar. Victor pulled his gun, gesturing for me to stay behind him. Alexei flanked the other side, moving with silent precision. They pushed inside like water, fluid and lethal, clearing rooms with efficiency that spoke of countless similar entries. "Clear," Alexei called from the bedroom. "Clear," Victor confirmed from the bathroom. I stepped over the threshold into my own home and felt like a stranger. Everything looked wrong, violated. Someone had been here, touching my things, invading my space. Books pulled from shelves, drawers hanging open, cushions displaced. And there, on my kitchen table, exactly as the photo had shown, Elena's jewelry box. Red velvet, elegant, innocent looking. "Don't touch it," Victor commanded as I moved toward it. "Could be rigged." Alexei produced a small device, sweeping it over the box with professional care. "No explosives. No tracking devices I can detect." Victor approached slowly, studying the box from every angle before carefully lifting the lid. Inside, nestled against white satin, lay a USB drive and a handwritten note. Victor's hand trembled, barely perceptible, but I was close enough to see as he unfolded the paper. His eyes moved across the words, and something in his expression crumbled. "What does it say?" I asked softly. He handed it to me without speaking. The handwriting was elegant, feminine, desperate. "Victor, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you to your face. Sorry I couldn't make you see what you've become. The USB contains everything: shipping manifests, bank records, communications with the Kozlov family. Yes, Victor, the Kozlovs. The people you think are your enemies have been your partners for months. Mikhail discovered it. That's why he's dead. You didn't kill him directly, but you might as well have. Your second in command, Dmitri, has been feeding information to Maxim Kozlov since spring. They're planning to merge your territories, eliminate you, and split your empire. You're not the king you think you are, Victor. You're a pawn being positioned for sacrifice. I tried to warn you, but you were too busy controlling my life to see your own unraveling. I loved you once. I think part of me still does. That's why I'm leaving this for you, so you can save yourself, even though you couldn't save me. Elena." The silence in my apartment was suffocating. Victor stood utterly still, the note dangling from his fingers, his face a mask of devastation. "Dmitri," he said finally, his voice scraped raw. "My oldest friend. He couldn't finish." "Victor," I started, not knowing what to say. How to comfort a man whose entire world had just imploded. She knew. His laugh was bitter, broken. She knew for months, and she tried to tell me. Those messages from Irina, they weren't paranoid fantasies. They were truth. And I deleted them. I silenced the only people trying to save my life because I was too arrogant to believe I could be betrayed. Alexei's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, then went pale. "Boss, Dmitri just arrived at the penthouse. He has 8 men with him." Victor's head snapped up, clarity cutting through grief. "The safe house. He knows about the safe house. He knows about everything," I whispered, understanding flooding through me. "He's your second in command. He has access to all your properties, all your security systems. He probably knew we were there the moment we arrived. And he let us leave," Victor said, the pieces clicking together. "Let us come here, to retrieve the evidence he'd already planted. Now we're away from any backup, any protection. Glass shattered in my bedroom. We spun toward the sound, and I saw the canister rolling across my floor a second before smoke began pouring out. "Gas!" Alexei shouted, pulling his shirt over his face. Victor grabbed me, hauling me toward the door, but more canisters crashed through the living room window. The apartment filled with thick, choking smoke. My eyes burned. My lungs screamed. Through the haze, I saw figures entering through the front door, men in gas masks, moving with military precision. Victor fired twice, dropping the first man. Alexei took down another, but there were too many, and the smoke was too thick, and I felt my knees buckling, consciousness slipping away like sand through fingers. The last thing I heard before darkness claimed me was Victor's voice, desperate and furious. "Don't you dare hurt her. She's not part of this." A dull thud, a body hitting the floor, then nothing. I woke to the smell of salt water and engine oil. My head throbbed. My wrists ached. When I tried to move, I discovered why I was tied to a chair, rope biting into my skin. The room was dark, lit only by moonlight filtering through grimy windows. Through them, I could see water. Lake Michigan, I thought. A warehouse on the docks. Awake, finally. The voice came from the shadows, male, Russian accented, unfamiliar. A man stepped into the light, and I recognized him from photos I'd seen in Victor's phone. Older, silver-haired, with Victor's sharp features softened by age and cruelty. "I'm Dmitri," he said, smiling like we were old friends. "We have so much to discuss, you and I." "Where's Victor?" "Indisposed." He gestured to something behind me. I craned my neck and saw him, Victor, tied to a chair like me, head slumped forward, blood matting his dark hair. Unconscious but breathing. Alive, relief and terror warred in my chest. "Now then," Dmitri said, pulling up a chair to sit facing me. "You're going to tell me everything you read on that USB drive, every file, every detail. Because you see, Miss Chen, Elena was very clever. She encrypted the drive, and only someone with her particular skills, or the skills of someone very much like her, can access it." He pulled the USB from his pocket, dangling it like a prize. "A journalist with strong technical instincts. Someone who knows how to crack passwords, how to dig for truth." His smile widened. "Someone exactly like you." "I don't know anything about encryption," I said, my voice shaking. "Then learn quickly." He pressed the USB into my bound hands. "Because every hour you fail to unlock it, Victor loses another finger." They brought me a laptop, expensive, probably stolen, and cut the ropes on my hands but not my ankles. The message was clear. I could work, but I couldn't run. Victor hadn't woken up yet. Every few minutes, I'd glance over my shoulder to check if his chest was still rising and falling. Each time it was, I felt something loosen in my chest, immediately followed by guilt. I shouldn't care. He dragged me into this nightmare. He'd claimed ownership over me like I was property. But when Dimitri's man had struck him with the gun, I'd screamed. That had to mean something. 30 minutes gone, Dmitri said, from where he lounged against the wall, checking his watch with theatrical precision. "I'd work faster if I were you." I stared at the laptop screen, at the password prompt that mocked me with its blinking cursor. Elena had been smart enough to investigate her husband's empire, smart enough to compile evidence that could destroy him. She wouldn't have used something obvious. I tried the basics first. Birthdays, anniversaries, common phrases. All failed. The drive allowed 3 attempts before lockout, then 3 more after a cooling period. I was already on attempt number 7. "This is impossible," I said, frustration bleeding into fear. "I need more information about her. Her background, her interests, things she cared about." "She cared about being self-righteous," Dmitri said dismissively. "About judging Victor for the empire she happily benefited from. About destroying everything we built." "Everything you built?" I turned to look at him. "Or everything you were planning to steal?" His expression hardened. "Careful, little journalist. You're not as valuable as you think. Then why not just torture Victor for the password? Why bother with me? Because Victor doesn't know the password." A new voice. "Female," came from the doorway. Irina stepped into the light, and I realized with sinking clarity that the betrayals ran even deeper than I'd thought. Elena didn't trust him. She barely trusted me. But she had patterns, habits. A journalist would see them. A person who thinks like her might guess them. "You're working with Dmitri," I said flatly. All of this, the messages, the warnings, the performance at the warehouse, was necessary to make Victor believe he had allies. That the Kozlovs were the enemy. Irina moved closer, studying me like I was a puzzle to solve. The truth is much simpler. Victor has been losing control for years. His sentimentality, his attachment to outdated codes of honor, they make him weak. Dmitri saw the opportunity to evolve the business. I saw the opportunity to finally step out of the shadows. And Elena? Something flickered across Irina's face, regret, maybe, or its ghost. Was collateral damage. She shouldn't have been in that car. The brake line failure was meant for Victor's vehicle. He and Elena switched cars that morning because hers wouldn't start. The admission hung in the air, ugly and undeniable. You killed her by accident, I whispered. And you've let Victor torture himself with guilt over deleting messages that wouldn't have saved her anyway. Guilt makes people pliable, Dmitri said. Useful. Though I admit, I didn't anticipate him finding you. That complicated things. Behind me, I heard a groan. Victor was waking up. Sophia, he rasped, his voice thick with pain. Don't help them. Whatever they promised. I promised her your fingers, Dmitri interrupted cheerfully, moving toward Victor with a knife that caught the moonlight like ice. Shall we make good on that promise? Wait. The word tore from my throat. Give me more time. I can figure this out. Dmitri paused, considering. 5 more minutes. Then I start cutting. I turned back to the laptop, my hands shaking so badly I could barely type. Think. Elena was meticulous, investigative, principled. She documented Victor's crimes, compiled evidence, risked everything for what? The question stopped me cold. Why did she do it? I asked, not turning around. Elena, why investigate her own husband? What was the trigger? Silence. Then Victor's voice, broken and raw. Mikhail. She loved my brother. Not romantically, she saw him as family, as the good man I used to be. When he disappeared, she couldn't accept that it was just business. She needed to know what happened to him. And she found out, I said slowly, understanding crystallizing. She found proof of what happened. I tried Mikhail as the password. Failed. I tried his birth date. Failed. 2 attempts left before lockout. Mikhail's full name, I said urgently. His birth date. Where he's buried. He's not buried, Victor said, and the grief in his voice was bottomless. That's the problem. No body was ever recovered. Elena believed. His voice cracked. She believed I had him dissolved, that I erased my own brother from existence. The horror of it settled over me like ash. I looked at the password prompt, at the blinking cursor, and thought about a woman loving a man who might be a monster, loving his brother who'd vanished, documenting evil while drowning in grief. I typed, Mikhail not forgotten. The screen flickered. Access granted. She's in, Dmitri said, moving toward me with predatory speed. What does it show? Files cascaded across the screen, spreadsheets, photos, recorded conversations. But my eyes caught on one folder, buried deep in the directory structure. Mikhail, truth. My finger hovered over the trackpad. Open it, Dmitri commanded. I looked back at Victor. Blood trickled down his temple. His eyes were glazed with pain, but he was staring at me with an intensity that burned. Whatever's in there, he said quietly. I need to know. Even if it destroys me. I clicked. The folder contained a single video file. I pressed play. The footage was grainy, time-stamped 6 months ago. A doc. Night. 2 men talking, their voices carried on surveillance audio. One was Mikhaila first, recognized him from the photo Victor had shown me. The other was Dmitri. You've done well, Dmitri was saying on the video. Victor trusts you completely. He has no idea you've been feeding us information. Mikhail's laugh was bitter. Because he sees me as his innocent little brother. He has no idea I'm the one who brokered the Kozlov deal, that I've been planning his downfall for years. The laptop was torn from my hands. Dmitri's face had gone white. Turn it off. But Victor had heard. Behind me, I heard his sharp intake of breath, heard the sound of rope straining as he fought his restraints. Mikhail, he said, his voice hollow. My brother betrayed me? I need to destroy this, Dmitri was saying to Irina, his composure cracking. If the Kozlovs discover I had him killed after he served his purpose. You killed him? Victor's roar shook the warehouse. He was working with you, and you killed him anyway? Dmitri spun, knife raised, and I saw murder in his eyes. But what I saw in Victor's eyes was worse. Rage. Pure. Incandescent. and utterly beyond reason. The ropes around his wrists were soaked with blood. He'd been working them loose while we talked, sawing through them on the chair's edge, sacrificing skin and flesh for freedom. They snapped. Victor rose like something biblical and terrible, and Dimitri's expression shifted from confidence to fear in a heartbeat. "Run, Sophia," Victor said, his voice eerily calm. "What happens next isn't something you should witness." But I was frozen, watching as the monster Irina had named finally emerged, and discovered I wasn't afraid of him. I was afraid for him. I didn't run. Maybe I should have. Maybe a smarter woman would have used Victor's explosion of violence as cover, would have slipped into the shadows and disappeared into the Chicago night. But I stayed rooted to that chair, watching as he moved across the warehouse floor with lethal grace. Dimitri struck first, the knife arcing toward Victor's throat. Victor caught his wrist mid-swing, twisted, and the crack of breaking bone echoed through the space like a gunshot. Dimitri's scream died as Victor's fist connected with his jaw, sending him sprawling. "You killed my brother," Victor said, each word punctuated by another blow. "You made me believe I was responsible. You let me grieve a ghost while you built your empire on his corpse." Irina pulled a gun, but Victor was faster. He disarmed her with brutal efficiency, sending the weapon skittering across concrete. She backed away, hands raised, fear finally cracking her composed facade. "Victor, wait, we can negotiate. Like you negotiated with Mikhail?" He advanced on her, and I saw her flinch. "Before or after Dimitri put a bullet in his head?" "I didn't know," Irina said quickly, desperately. "About Mikhail's death, I swear. Dimitri told me he'd been relocated, given a new identity." "Liar!" Victor's hand shot out, catching her throat, lifting her until her feet left the ground. "You knew. You've always known. That's why you pushed Elena toward the truth, because you wanted me to discover the betrayal, wanted me broken enough to fall in line with Dimitri's plans." Through the chaos, I heard sirens in the distance. Someone had called the police. We had minutes, maybe less. "Victor," I called out, my voice cutting through his rage. "The police are coming. We need to leave." He didn't seem to hear me. His grip on Irina's throat tightened, and her face was turning purple, her feet kicking uselessly. "Victor," I stood, my bound ankles making me stumble. "She's not worth it. Let her go. She helped kill Elena. She helped kill Mikhail. And if you kill her, you'll be the monster everyone thinks you are." I lurched forward, falling to my knees beside him. Is that what Mikhail would have wanted? What Elena would have wanted? His eyes met mine, and what I saw there stopped my breath. Not rage anymore. Anguish. The kind of pain that destroys from the inside out. "They're already dead," he said hoarsely. "What does it matter what they'd want? Because you're not." I reached up, my hand covering his where it gripped Irina's throat. His skin was warm, slick, with blood his own, and others. "You're still here. You can still choose who you want to be." For a long moment, nothing happened. The sirens grew louder. Dimitri groaned from where he lay broken on the floor. Irina's struggles weakened, then Victor opened his hand. Irina collapsed, gasping, sobbing. Victor stared at his bloodied hands like they belonged to someone else. "Cut yourself free," he said to me, his voice empty. "We're leaving." He produced a knife, not Dimitri's, his own, pulled from an ankle holster and sliced through the ropes at my feet with surprising gentleness. Then he grabbed the laptop, tucked it under his arm, and pulled me toward a back exit I hadn't noticed. "Wait," I said, looking back at Dimitri. "What about, the police will find them. Let them explain why they're in an abandoned warehouse, with enough evidence on that drive to put them away for life." Victor's smile was sharp, hollow. "I'm done protecting people who never deserved it." We emerged into an alley that smelled of rot and salt water. The lake stretched before us, black and infinite. A car waited Alexei at the wheel, somehow having escaped or never been captured. Victor pushed me into the back seat and climbed in after me. "Drive," he commanded, and we disappeared into the night. We didn't speak for 20 minutes. Victor sat rigid beside me, staring out the window, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Blood soaked through his shirt, some his, some not. His knuckles were raw, split open. "You need medical attention," I said finally. "I've had worse." "That's not reassuring." "It wasn't meant to be." He turned to look at me, and his expression was unreadable. "You should have run. When I told you to. Why didn't you?" I didn't have a good answer. "I don't know. You saw what I'm capable of. What I become when—" He stopped, jaw working. You should be terrified of me. I am, I admitted. But I'm also... I struggled for the right words. I watched you choose to let her live. That had to mean something. It means I'm weak. It means you're human. He laughed, bitter and broken. Is there a difference anymore? Alexei pulled into an underground garage, another safe house, I assumed. Though after tonight I wasn't sure anywhere was truly safe. We rode an elevator in silence to a penthouse that looked unlived in, sterile. Victor moved immediately to a laptop, uploading Elena's drive. I should have felt relief. We had the evidence. The traitors were exposed. It was over. But watching Victor's face as he scrolled through his dead wife's documentation of his crimes, I realized nothing was over. It was just beginning. There are files here I've never seen, he said quietly, clicking through folders. Business I didn't authorize. Deals I never made. Mikhail was running operations in my name, using my reputation as cover while he sold me out piece by piece. I'm sorry, I said, though the words felt inadequate. Don't be. He pulled up a video file, another one, different from the doc footage. This one showed a younger Victor, maybe 5 years ago, sitting across from Mikhail at what looked like a family dinner. They were laughing, toasting with wine, looking at each other with genuine affection. Victor's hand trembled on the mouse. I loved him, he whispered. He was all I had left of our family. Our parents died when we were young car accident, like Elena. I raised him, protected him, built this empire so he'd never want for anything. His voice cracked. And he hated me for it. Hated me enough to destroy everything. I moved closer, drawn by the raw vulnerability in his voice. You couldn't have known. I should have. He closed the laptop with more force than necessary. Elena saw it. That's what all this documentation proves. She was trying to show me that my own brother was my greatest enemy, and I silenced her for it. I deleted her warnings. I destroyed her attempts to save me. You didn't kill her, I said firmly. Dmitri did. Even if it was meant for you. Same difference. He stood abruptly, pacing like a caged animal. She died because of me. Mikhail died because of my business. Everyone I've ever... He stopped himself, fists clenching. Everyone you've ever what? He turned to face me, and the look in his eyes was devastating. Everyone I've ever cared about ends up destroyed. It's the price of being who I am, what I am. Then change, I heard myself say. Use that evidence. Burn it all down. Start over. As what? A civilian? A good man? His laugh was painful to hear. There's too much blood on my hands, Sophia. Too many sins that can't be washed away. Then let me help you carry them. The words escaped before I could stop them, and we both froze. The admission hung between us, dangerous and undeniable. Victor crossed the space between us in 3 strides, his hands cupping my face with unexpected gentleness. Why? He demanded. Why would you? His phone buzzed. Then again. Then continuously. A cascade of alerts. He checked it. And all color drained from his face. What? I asked. What is it? He turned the phone toward me. The screen showed news alerts, dozens of them, all with variations of the same headline, breaking. Chicago Mafia boss Viktor Volkov's wife, Elena alive, and in FBI custody. Below it, a photo. Elena, very much alive, standing between 2 federal agents. The timestamp, 20 minutes ago. That's impossible, I whispered. You identified her body. You said, I know what I said. Victor's voice was hollow. But if Elena's alive, then who did I bury? The television in the penthouse flickered to life as Victor switched to a live news feed. My legs gave out, and I sank onto the leather sofa, unable to process what I was seeing. Elena Volkov stood at a podium, federal agents flanking her like sentries. She looked different from the woman in Victor's photos, thinner, harder, her dark hair cut short. But it was unmistakably her, alive, speaking. 6 months ago, I discovered my husband was not the man I married, Elena said, her voice steady despite the camera flashes. I found evidence of murder, extortion, human trafficking crimes that extended far beyond what I could have imagined. When I tried to confront him, I realized my own life was in danger. She's lying, Victor said, but there was no conviction in his voice. She has to be. With the FBI's help, I faked my death, Elena continued. The woman who died in my car was Irina Volkov, Victor's lover and his co-conspirator. She'd been helping me gather evidence, wearing a wire, feeding information to federal investigators. When she realized Victor had discovered her betrayal, she contacted me. We arranged to switch cars. She thought she was meeting me for protection. My hand flew to my mouth. Oh God. Irina wasn't working with Dmitri at all, Victor finished, his voice hollow. She was working with Elena, against me. And Elena let her die. On screen, Elena's expression remained impassive. Irina Volkov knew the risks. Her death, while tragic, has allowed us to build an airtight case against Victor and his entire organization. Today, with the evidence we've compiled, the FBI will be issuing warrants for... Victor shut off the television. The silence was suffocating. He stood with his back to me, shoulders rigid, everything about his posture screaming barely contained violence. When he finally spoke, his voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear it. I identified her body. I saw her face, touched her hand. I grieved her. Bodies in car accidents, the trauma, the burns. I started, then stopped. What comfort could I possibly offer? Maybe you saw what you expected to see. Or maybe Elena staged it perfectly, made sure the body was just recognizable enough, just destroyed enough. He turned, and the anguish in his expression was visceral. She used Irina, let her die in her place, and I've spent 3 days mourning a woman who was orchestrating my destruction. His phone buzzed again. This time, a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. But you left me no choice. The Victor I married died long before I did. She's watching the news coverage, I said. Watching your reaction. Of course she is. Victor's laugh was broken glass. This is her final victory. Not just destroying me, but making sure I know she won. That she was always 3 steps ahead. Victor, the woman in the warehouse, he interrupted suddenly, his eyes widening with realization. When we first arrived, Irina said she saw someone, a woman who ran. That was Elena. She was there, watching us, ensuring everything played out exactly as she'd planned. The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. She needed you to find that USB drive. Needed you to discover Dmitri's betrayal so you'd be distracted, vulnerable. While you were focused on him, she was building her case, using my own paranoia against me. He pulled up his phone, scrolling through encrypted messages. Every property I own is about to be raided. Every bank account frozen. Every ally questioned. She didn't just fake her death. She orchestrated my complete annihilation. But the evidence on the drive, it shows Mikhail's betrayal, Dmitri's conspiracy. It also shows my crimes. Every order I gave, every decision I made. Elena documented everything, then cherry-picked what to release. His jaw clenched. She's destroyed the people who betrayed me while ensuring I go down with them. It's brilliant, ruthless. Everything I taught her to be. The admission hung heavy between us. Victor moved to the window, staring out at the city that was no longer his kingdom. In the distance, I could see red and blue lights, police cars, FBI vehicles, converging on his known properties. You need to run, I said. Now, before they find this location. Run where? She knows every safe house, every contact, every escape route. I built this organization with her by my side. She knows me better than I know myself. Then we improvise. Use something she doesn't know about. Someone she's never met. We? He turned, fixing me with an intense stare. Sophia, you need to leave. Now. Before the FBI connects you to any of this. You're innocent. You can still walk away. Walk away to what? My apartment that Dmitri's men violated? My job that I haven't shown up to in 2 days? My life that stopped existing the moment I picked up that phone? I stood, crossing to him. Victor, I'm already implicated. The police saw me at the warehouse. There are probably cameras that caught us fleeing. If I run now, I look guilty. If you stay, you are guilty. Accessory too. He stopped, jaw working. I won't let you sacrifice yourself for me. You don't get to make that choice. The words came out fiercer than I intended. For once in your controlling, domineering, impossible life, you don't get to decide what happens to me. I'm choosing to stay. Why? The question was raw, desperate. Why would you tie yourself to a sinking ship? Because somewhere between the warehouse and the safe house, between watching him nearly kill and watching him choose mercy, I'd stopped seeing him as just a monster. I'd seen the man underneath, broken, betrayed, still capable of being saved, but I couldn't say that. Not yet. Not when everything was burning down around us. Because someone should. I said instead. Because Elena was wrong. The Victor she married isn't dead. He's just been buried under layers of violence and grief. And maybe he deserves a chance to fight his way back. Victor stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Then, before I could react, he closed the distance between us and kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, almost violent, a drowning man grasping for air. His hands tangled in my hair, his body pressing me back against the window, and I kissed him back with equal desperation, tasting blood and rain and something that felt dangerously like hope. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. "This is a mistake," he whispered. "Probably. You should hate me." "I should. But you don't." "No." The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. "I don't." His phone buzzed again this time. "A call," he answered, his expression darkening as he listened. "Understand," he said curtly, then ended the call. "What?" I asked, dreading the answer. "That was my contact in the FBI. Elena's not just holding a press conference, she's planning to testify before a grand jury tomorrow morning. Once she does, there's no coming back from this. Every deal, every alliance, every thread of my organization will be exposed. Then we have until tomorrow morning to find leverage. What leverage could possibly matter against a dead woman's testimony?" I thought about the USB drive, about Elena's meticulous documentation, about 6 months of planning and manipulation. "She's not the only one who can tell a story, Victor. She documented your crimes. Fine, but she also documented her own. Her cooperation with Irina, her staged death, her willingness to let another woman die in her place." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "The FBI thinks she's a tragic victim. If we can prove she's an architect, we change the narrative, make her complicit in everything, not just a witness." I grabbed the laptop, pulling up Elena's files. She was too thorough. She documented conversations, meetings, decisions they made together. If we can show she wasn't just your wife but your partner, we destroy her credibility. Victor's mind was already racing, the strategic calculation I'd seen glimpses of now fully engaged. But we'd need to release it tonight, before her testimony, before the FBI can bury it. Then we release it everywhere. Every media outlet, every journalist, The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Then that died too, plunging us into darkness, broken only by the city lights outside. "They've cut the power," Victor said, his voice deadly calm. "They're here." Through the window, I could see vehicles pulling up to the building, dozens of them, federal agents in tactical gear, moving with military precision. "The roof," Victor said, grabbing my hand. "There's a helicopter. It's our only—" The door exploded inward. Not FBI, not police. Men in black suits, faces I didn't recognize, guns raised. "Viktor Volkov," the lead man said in heavily accented English. "Maxim Kozlov sends his regards. You've caused quite a mess. Time to clean it up." Victor's hand tightened on mine as he realized the same thing I did. We were trapped between the FBI below and the Kozlov family above, and Elena had orchestrated it perfectly. Victor's gun was in his hand before I'd processed the threat, but 6 weapons against 1 made the math brutally simple. The Kozlov enforcer, a man with a scar running from temple to jaw, smiled like he'd already won. "Don't be stupid, Volkov. You're trapped. FBI below, us above, and nowhere to run. Maxim is offering you something rare, a chance to negotiate." "Negotiate what?" Victor's voice was ice. "My surrender? Your survival." The enforcer gestured with his gun toward the sofa. "Sit, both of you. Let's discuss this like civilized people." Every instinct screamed at me to refuse, to fight, to do something other than comply. But Victor's hand found mine again, squeezing once a silent message. "Trust me." Or maybe, "I'm sorry." We sat. The Kozlov men spread through the penthouse, checking rooms, securing exits. Professional, efficient, terrifying. "Elena Volkov is a problem," the scarred enforcer said, settling into a chair across from us like we were having tea. "Her testimony tomorrow will expose not just your organization, but the connections between our families, the shipments we coordinated, the territories we negotiated. She's threatening the entire infrastructure. So kill her," Victor said flatly. "You have the resources. In FBI protective custody? Too risky, too public." He leaned forward. "But you have something we need. The original files from that USB drive. The unedited versions, before Elena cherry-picked her evidence. Files that show she wasn't a victim, but a co-conspirator. Understanding clicked. You want to blackmail her, I said. Force her to recant her testimony. Smart girl. The enforcer's gaze slid to me, assessing and cold. I see why Victor keeps you close. Yes, we want leverage. Elena Volkov thinks she's untouchable now, protected by federal agents and public sympathy. But if we prove she was complicit in everything, actively participating in the business, making decisions, ordering hits, she becomes a co-defendant instead of a witness, I finished. The FBI drops her immunity deal, and she spends the rest of her life in prison, keeping her mouth shut to protect herself. He smiled. Everyone wins. Well, except Elena. Victor was silent, his expression unreadable. I could feel the tension radiating from him, could see the calculation behind his eyes. Below us, I heard shouting, the FBI breaching the lower floors. What's your offer? Victor asked finally. The files in exchange for safe passage out of the country. New identities, clean papers, enough money to start over somewhere the FBI can't touch you. The enforcer checked his watch. But we need those files in the next 30 minutes. Before Elena's protective detail moves her to a secure location for tomorrow's testimony. And if I refuse, then we leave you for the FBI. Let Elena bury you. He shrugged. Or we kill you both now and tear this place apart looking for the files ourselves. Your choice, but choose quickly. Federal agents will reach this floor in approximately... He paused, listening to an earpiece. 8 minutes. My mind raced. The files were on the laptop beside us, encrypted but accessible. Victor could hand them over, escape with his life, start over somewhere far from Chicago's blood-soaked streets. It was the smart play, the survival play, but I was watching his face, and I saw something I didn't expect. Resignation. No, Victor said quietly. The enforcer's expression hardened. Excuse me? I said no. Victor stood, and I grabbed his arm, trying to pull him back down. I'm not running. Not anymore. Not from Elena. Not from the FBI. Not from the consequences of what I've built. Victor, I hissed. What are you doing? What I should have done months ago. He looked at me, and his eyes were clear, certain. Elena was right about one thing: the man she married is dead. But that doesn't mean I have to keep being the monster who replaced him. I can still choose a different ending. A different ending where you die in federal prison? I was standing now too, desperate. Where the Kozlovs kill us both for refusing their deal. A different ending where I stop running from the truth. He turned to the enforcer. You want those files? Take them. Release them all, not just the parts that incriminate Elena, but everything. Every crime I committed, every decision I made, every person I hurt. Let the world see exactly what I am. You're insane, the enforcer said. Probably. Victor pulled the laptop toward him, his fingers flying across the keyboard. But I'm done living in the shadows. Done letting other people control my narrative. If I'm going down, it'll be on my terms. With the truth. He hit enter, and I watched files uploading not to the Kozlovs, but to every major news outlet. Every journalist contact Elena's drive had documented. Raw, unfiltered evidence of both Victor's empire and Elena's complicity. The enforcer's gun rose. You stupid. The window exploded inward. FBI tactical team, rappelling from the roof, moving with deadly precision. The Kozlov men scattered, gunfire erupting, and Victor threw himself over me, shielding my body with his as glass and bullets flew. Stay down, he commanded. But I was already moving, crawling toward the overturned table, toward anything that might provide cover. Through the chaos, I heard the FBI shouting commands, heard the Kozlov men returning fire, heard Victor's harsh breathing beside me. His hand found mine again in the darkness, gripping tight. I'm sorry, he said, and I knew he wasn't apologizing for the gunfight, for dragging you into this, for claiming you belonged to me, for... Shut up, I said fiercely, squeezing his hand back. We're not dying tonight, either of us. Understand? A flashbang grenade went off, blinding and deafening. When my vision cleared, the Kozlov men were on the ground, subdued or dead. FBI agents swarmed the penthouse, weapons trained. Victor Volkov, a voice called out, female, authoritative. You're under arrest for... I know what I'm under arrest for. Victor stood slowly, hands raised. I uploaded a full confession to the media 30 seconds ago. Complete documentation of my crimes and Elena Volkov's participation. You'll want to adjust your case accordingly. The FBI agent, middle-aged, severe, clearly the lead, stared at him like he'd grown a second head. You just confessed? Publicly? I did. Victor glanced at me one last time, something soft and broken in his expression. And I'm invoking my right to an attorney. But first, I need you to guarantee this woman's safety. Sophia Chen. She's a civilian who got caught in the crossfire. She's innocent. She's under investigation as an accessory. Then investigate. You'll find nothing. She found a phone. That's all. Everything else. He looked directly at the agent. Everything else was me, my choices, my crimes. Let her go. The agent studied us both, clearly trying to determine if this was some kind of trick. Then she nodded to two agents, who moved to separate us. No, I protested, pulling against the hands on my arms. Victor, it's okay, he said, already being cuffed, already being led away. You're going to be okay, Sophia. That's all that matters. That's not all that matters. My voice cracked, breaking. You don't get to martyr yourself and expect me to walk away. I'm not a martyr. He stopped, forcing the agents to stop with him, and met my eyes across the destroyed penthouse. I'm just a man trying to do one good thing before the end. Let me have this. They pulled him toward the door, and I watched him go, this impossible man who'd crashed into my life like a natural disaster, who'd claimed me and protected me and kissed me like I was oxygen itself. Wait, I called out, my voice carrying across the chaos. The files you uploaded, they'll destroy Elena's credibility, but they'll also destroy me, I know. He smiled, sad and genuine. But at least it'll be the truth. No more lies, no more deleted messages, just what we both really were. They led him away. The FBI agent turned to me, her expression slightly less hostile. You should call a lawyer, Miss Chen. You're not under arrest, but you'll need to make a statement. About what? I told you, about the $8 million that was just deposited into your account, she said, showing me her phone screen. My heart stopped. The transfer was time-stamped 2 minutes ago, from an account registered to Viktor Volkov. The memo line read, "Payment for services rendered. Thank you for helping me see clearly." V. He paid you? The agent's tone had shifted to suspicion. For what services? But I was staring at the screen, understanding flooding through me. Not payment, protection, money to afford the best lawyers, to disappear if needed, to start over somewhere safe. One final act of control, or maybe one final act of love. I don't know. I lied, meeting the agent's eyes. I've never seen this account before. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her expression. But before she could press further, her radio crackled. Agent Morrison, we have a situation. Elena Volkov's protective detail just reported she's gone. Fled her hotel room approximately 10 minutes ago. Location unknown. The agent's face went white. What? Die. She saw the file upload, saw her own evidence being released. She ran. Morrison swore, already moving toward the door. Lock down the airports, train stations, every exit point from the city. And someone get me the Kozlov family's known associates. If Elena's running, she's making a deal with someone. In the chaos that followed, I slipped away. Down the emergency stairs, out a side exit, into the Chicago night that smelled of rain and endings. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The roof of the Hancock building. Midnight. Come alone if you want answers. I should have called the FBI. Should have turned the phone over and washed my hands of all of it. Instead, I checked the time 11:47 p.m. and started running. The Hancock building's observation deck was closed for renovations, but Elena had left the service entrance unlocked. I climbed 94 floors through emergency stairwells, my lungs burning, my mind racing with every possible scenario of how this could end. Most of them involved my body plummeting 1,000 feet. She was waiting by the north-facing windows when I arrived, silhouetted against the city lights. Up close, Elena Volkov was smaller than I'd expected. Delicate bone structure, careful posture, the kind of woman who'd learned to make herself unthreatening. But her eyes were hard as diamonds. You came, she said, without turning. I wasn't sure you would. You said you had answers. I kept my distance, acutely aware we were alone at the top of the world. Though I'm not sure why you'd offer them to me. Because you're the only person in this entire mess who might understand. She finally turned, and I saw tears tracking down her face. Not performance tears, real ones. You fell for him too, didn't you? Despite everything you knew he was capable of. The observation landed like a physical blow. I don't know what you're talking about. Please. I saw how he looked at you in the file footage from the warehouse. How he protected you. Her smile was bitter. That's how he looked at me once, before I became another piece of his empire to manage. You faked your death, I said, refusing to be drawn into sympathy. Let another woman die in your place. You don't get to play the victim now. Irina volunteered. Elena's voice cracked. She knew the risks. She wanted out of Victor's shadow as badly as I did. We'd been planning it for months, her wearing a wire, me documenting everything. The car was supposed to be empty when the brakes failed. We were supposed to both disappear. But she got in anyway. She called me that morning, said Dmitri was getting suspicious, that she needed to run immediately. So we switched places. She'd drive my car to the meeting point. I'd drive hers to a safe house. I thought, her voice broke completely. I thought we'd both make it out. I didn't know Victor had convinced himself I was in danger, that he'd deleted all her warnings and was tracking my every move. By the time I realized he'd had my car under surveillance, the brake line, the accident, the body burned beyond recognition. You let him believe it was you, I said. Let him grieve while you built your case. I had no choice. Elena's composure shattered, revealing the raw desperation underneath. Don't you understand? I loved him. God help me, I still do. But loving Viktor Volkov is like loving a hurricane, beautiful and terrifying and ultimately destructive. I tried to change him, tried to show him there was another way, but he was too far gone. The business, the violence, the bodies, it never stopped. So you decided to destroy him instead. I decided to save him. She moved closer, urgent. That's what the testimony was supposed to be. Not revenge, redemption. If I could expose the organization, bring down the people using him, show the FBI that Victor was a product of circumstances he inherited from his father, he'd get a lighter sentence, maybe even immunity for cooperation. Understanding crystallized. You were trying to negotiate a deal for him. Yes. The word came out desperate, pleading. But then he uploaded those files tonight. Confessed to everything without giving the FBI anything to bargain with. He destroyed any chance I had of protecting him. Maybe he didn't want your protection. I thought of Victor's face when he'd made that choice. The certainty in his eyes. Maybe he was tired of being saved by people who thought they knew better than he did. Elena flinched like I'd struck her. I knew him better than anyone. Did you? I challenged. Because the man I met, the one who chose mercy over murder, who uploaded the truth instead of running, who made sure I'd be protected even if it meant damning himself, that man doesn't sound like someone who needed saving. He sounds like someone who was finally ready to save himself. By confessing? By throwing his life away? Elena's laugh was sharp, broken. That's not salvation. That's suicide. Or it's the first honest thing he's done in years. I moved to the window, looking down at the city spread below us like a circuit board of light. You manipulated him, faked your death, used his grief as a weapon. And you call that love? I call it the only option I had left. She was beside me now, both of us reflected in the glass, two women tied to the same impossible man in completely different ways. You think I wanted this? To become someone who plans deaths and orchestrates betrayals? Victor's world made me this. His choices shaped mine. That's a convenient excuse. It's the truth. She turned to face me fully. And here's another truth. The Kozlovs won't stop. Not with Victor in custody. Not with the files released. They'll come for everyone connected to this, including you. That money Victor transferred? That wasn't protection. It was a target painted on your back. My blood went cold. What? $8 million from a criminal enterprise, deposited into your account hours before his arrest? The FBI will assume you were involved. The Kozlovs will assume you have information they want. Victor thought he was saving you, but all he did was mark you as someone worth questioning, worth torturing, worth... Stop. I pressed my hands against the glass, trying to steady myself. If what you're saying is true, then why bring me here? Why not just let me walk into whatever's coming? Elena's expression shifted, calculation mixing with something that might have been genuine concern. Because I'm offering you the same thing I wanted for Victor. A way out. A deal. What kind of deal? Testify with me tomorrow. Tell the grand jury everything you witnessed. Dmitri's betrayal. The Kozlov family's involvement. Victor's confession. Help me build a case that's about more than just Victor's crimes. One that exposes the entire network. And in exchange? Witness protection. New identity. The FBI seizes that $8 million. But you walk away alive. Clean slate, fresh start. She pulled a business card from her pocket, FBI agent Morrison's direct line. I've already cleared it with them. They're willing to offer you immunity if you cooperate. I stared at the card, at the lifeline being offered. It was everything I should want: safety, distance, a return to normalcy. All I had to do was betray the man who dragged me into hell and then tried to pull me back out. Why? I asked. Why help me? Because I see myself in you. Elena's voice softened. Someone who fell for a monster and convinced herself she could see the man underneath. Someone who's about to realize that love isn't enough to change what we are or what we've done. Take the deal, Sophia. Don't make my mistakes. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized the pattern. The encryption Victor had shown me how to access. She's lying about the deal. Morrison wants you both as witnesses against each other. Whoever flips first gets immunity. Don't trust her. Alexei. Still alive. Still loyal. I looked up at Elena, at this woman who'd orchestrated so much death and destruction in the name of love and survival, and made my choice. No, I said quietly. No? She blinked, genuinely surprised. Sophia, you'll die if you don't. Maybe. But I won't become you. I backed toward the exit, card still in her hand. You think Victor made you into this? You're wrong. You chose this. Every manipulation, every betrayal, every deleted message, those were your choices. Don't blame him for what you did to survive. You're a fool, Elena called after me. He'll destroy you just like he destroyed everyone else. I stopped at the door, looking back one final time. Maybe, but at least I'll know I tried to save him without sacrificing who I am. Can you say the same? I left her there, silhouetted against the city lights, alone with her choices and her ghosts. The stairwell was dark, endless. My phone buzzed again. Subway station under Michigan Avenue. Red line platform. 10 minutes. Trust me one more time. I ran down 94 floors, my heart pounding, wondering if I was running toward salvation or straight into another trap. Behind me, through the stairwell's echo, I heard a sound that made my blood freeze. A gunshot. Single. Final. From the observation deck, I stopped, hand on the railing, torn between going back and running forward. My phone buzzed one more time. Agent Morrison. Elena Volkov found dead. Self-inflicted gunshot. Suicide note implicates you as accomplice. Turn yourself in immediately or you'll be considered armed and dangerous. The world tilted. Elena was dead, and I'd been framed for her murder. I made it to the subway with 3 minutes to spare. My lungs screaming, every nerve ending firing warnings. The platform was nearly empty at this hour, just a few late-night workers and one homeless man sleeping on a bench. Alexei emerged from the shadows like a ghost, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward a maintenance tunnel I'd never noticed. We disappeared into darkness, just as I heard sirens converging above ground. Did you... I started, but he cut me off. No, but someone did. He led me through passages that smelled of rust and decades of neglect. Elena was already dead when I arrived. Single shot to the temple, gun in her hand. Note on her phone, implicating you in everything from Irina's death to the Kozlov conspiracy. It's a setup, obviously. We emerged into a different tunnel, this one leading to Union Station. The question is who? Elena didn't write that note wrong, syntax, wrong phrasing. Someone wanted her dead, and you blamed. The Kozlovs, I said, pieces clicking together. They couldn't let her testify, couldn't risk what she knew, and framing me removes the last witness who could corroborate Victor's uploaded files. Make you look like his accomplice? Discredit everything you might say. Alexei checked his phone, swore in Russian. They're smart, efficient, and they're tracking every credit card, every phone, every digital footprint you have. Then how do I? You don't, not alone. He pulled me into a maintenance closet as transit police rushed past. Which is why we're getting you to Victor. My heart stopped. Victor's in federal custody, for now. But I have contacts, and they owe me favors. His expression was grim. There's a transport scheduled for dawn taking him from the holding facility to county jail for processing. 17-minute window where he's vulnerable, where we can intercept. That's insane. You want to break him out? I want to give you both a chance to run, together. He met my eyes. Boss transferred $8 million to you. That wasn't random. He has offshore accounts, safe houses in countries without extradition treaties, money and resources the FBI hasn't found. But only you can access them now. The accounts are in your name. The implication hit like ice water. He planned this. Even when he was confessing. Even when he was surrendering, he had an exit strategy. Victor always has an exit strategy. Alexei's phone buzzed. Transport leaves in 40 minutes. We need to move. The ambush happened at a railroad crossing on the south side, a place where timing mattered more than firepower. Alexei had assembled a team of 5 men, all loyal to Victor, all with nothing left to lose. The armored transport appeared right on schedule, flanked by 2 escort vehicles. They stopped at the crossing as planned. Alexei's team had sabotaged the signal system, forcing them to wait for a freight train that would take 6 minutes to pass. 6 minutes to extract Victor and disappear. I watched from inside a van parked a block away, my hands shaking, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was it, the moment I stopped being a victim of circumstances and became an active participant in my own destruction. Alexei's team moved with military precision, smoke grenades, flashbangs, synchronized assault. The FBI agents never had a chance. Within 90 seconds, the transport doors were breached, and then I saw him. Victor emerged into the pre-dawn light in handcuffs and an orange jumpsuit, his face bruised, his left eye swollen shut. But when he saw me standing by the van, his expression shifted from confusion to horror. "No," he said, even as Alexei was cutting his restraints. "Sophia, what are you? You're supposed to be gone. Safe. Away from all this." "Elena's dead," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Murdered and staged as suicide. The FBI thinks I did it. Your exit strategy just became our exit strategy." He looked at Alexei, who nodded confirmation. Something in Victor's face crumbled. "This isn't what I wanted. I confessed so you could be free. And I'm choosing not to be." I closed the distance between us, very aware of the seconds ticking away. "You don't get to sacrifice yourself and expect me to accept it. Not after everything." "Sophia, we don't have time for this," Alexei interrupted. "FBI response time is 3 minutes. We're already at 2. Victor looked at me, really looked, like he was trying to memorize every detail. Then he made his decision. "South route," he commanded, the authority returning to his voice. "Alexei, you take the team north. Draw their attention. We'll go through the industrial district." "Boss, that's an order." Victor gripped his friend's shoulder. "You've done enough. More than enough. If this goes wrong, I need someone outside to handle the accounts. Protect the people who can't protect themselves." Understanding passed between them a goodbye that neither wanted to speak aloud. Then we were moving, Victor pulling me toward a motorcycle hidden in an alley, sirens screaming in the distance. "You know how to ride?" he asked, straddling the bike. "Not really. Hold on tight anyway." He started the engine, and I wrapped my arms around his waist, feeling the warmth of him, the solid reality of him alive and breathing. We flew through Chicago's awakening streets, weaving between cars, taking corners that defied physics. The city blurred around us, my city, the place I'd lived my entire life, now becoming a prison I needed to escape. Victor pulled into an underground parking garage in Ukrainian village, killed the engine, and finally turned to face me. "Why?" he asked, his voice raw. "Why throw away everything for me?" "Because you were willing to throw away everything for the truth," I said. "Because you chose honesty over escape. Because when you had a chance to kill Irina, you listened to me instead. Because—" I stopped, the words catching in my throat. "Because," he prompted, his hand cupping my face with devastating gentleness. "Because I see who you are. Not who you were. Not who everyone else thinks you are. Just you." The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. And maybe that makes me a fool. Maybe I'm throwing my life away for a man who can't be saved. But it's my choice to make. Victor's thumb traced my cheekbone, his eyes searching mine for something I didn't fully understand. "I don't deserve this. You, probably not. But that's not really the point anymore." He kissed me, then different from the desperate kiss in the penthouse. This was soft, careful, tasting of goodbye and hello, and promises neither of us could keep. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. "I have a boat," he said quietly. "Docked at Burnham Harbor under a shell company the FBI doesn't know about. It can get us to international waters, then to the Cayman Islands. From there we disappear." I finished his thought. "Become different people. Start over." "Yes." His hand tightened on the back of my neck. "But Sophia, you need to understand there's no coming back from this. Your family, your career, your entire life, ends the moment we get on that boat. Are you absolutely certain?" My phone rang. My mother's number. We both stared at it, understanding the weight of that decision. If I answered, if I heard her voice, I might falter, might choose safety over him, might save myself. I declined the call. "I'm certain," I said. Victor exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for hours. "Then we move now, before the FBI locks down the harbors." We had maybe 20 minutes before the entire city became a trap. 20 minutes to reach the boat, to cut ties with everything we'd ever known, to choose each other over everything else. Victor handed me a burner phone and a fake passport he pulled from a hidden compartment in the garage. The photo was me, but the name was someone else entirely. Sarah Mitchell, born in Toronto, no criminal record, no past. "Put this on," he said, handing me a wig blonde. "Shoulder length and sunglasses. We walk out of here as tourists, relaxed, in love, nothing suspicious." I transformed myself in the bike's mirror, watching Sophia Chen disappear and Sarah Mitchell emerge. Victor changed 2 simple clothes, a baseball cap, the kind of man no one would look at twice. "Ready?" he asked, offering his hand. I took it. We walked into the early morning light as different people, headed toward a boat that would carry us toward an uncertain future. Behind us, I heard helicopters, sirens, the machinery of justice grinding forward. But ahead, through the harbor's morning mist, I saw the boat. Small, inconspicuous. Freedom. We were 50 feet away when Agent Morrison stepped out from behind a shipping container, gun drawn, a dozen agents materializing around her. "Viktor Volkov, Sophia Chen, you're both under arrest." Her expression was granite. "And before you consider running, we have sharpshooters on every rooftop. Move, and they fire." Victor's hand tightened on mine, and I realized, with absolute clarity, that we'd walked into one final trap. "She knew," I whispered. "Elena. She told them everything before she died. The boat, the accounts, the escape plan." Victor met Morrison's eyes across the dock. "If you shoot, you'll never know where the rest of the money is. Never find the complete records of every politician, every judge, every federal agent on my payroll." Morrison's gun didn't waver. "You uploaded everything, remember? Your confession." "I uploaded what I wanted you to see." Victor's smile was sharp, dangerous. "Insurance policy, Agent Morrison. Something Elena taught me. Always keep leverage." The standoff stretched FBI agents, sharpshooters, 2 desperate people with nothing left to lose. Then Victor looked at me, and I saw the decision forming. "I love you," he said simply. "That's real. Remember that." And he let go of my hand, and stepped toward Morrison with his hands raised in surrender, leaving me standing alone, the boat just feet away, freedom within reach. One final choice: run and save myself, or stand with the monster I'd chosen to love. I looked at the boat, at freedom, at the life I could still have. Then I looked at Victor, this impossible man who'd seen the worst of himself and chosen truth anyway. "No," I said, stepping forward to stand beside him. "We go together, or not at all." Victor's expression shattered relief and anguish, and something that looked like hope. Morrison lowered her gun slightly, reassessing. "You're both idiots." "Probably," I agreed, "but we're idiots together." "And Agent Morrison? We're willing to talk. Everything. Full cooperation. Every name, every account, every secret. Victor knows in exchange for—" "I want immunity from prosecution," Victor interrupted, his voice steady. "For her, not me, just her. I'll plead guilty to everything, serve whatever sentence you want." "But she walks free." "Victor. No, it's my choice, Sophia." He looked at me, and his eyes held peace I'd never seen before. "You chose to stand with me. Now let me choose to save you." Morrison studied us both for a long moment. Then she holstered her gun. "We'll discuss terms at the federal building. But Volkov? If you're lying about those records, about the leverage, I'm not." He pulled a small USB drive from his pocket, different from Elena's. "This one his own insurance. Everything's here. Every corrupt official who ever took my money, including 3 current FBI agents and 1 federal prosecutor." Morrison's expression went carefully blank. "We'll need to verify. You'll verify that I'm telling the truth. And then you'll give Sophia immunity, witness protection, and a chance at the life she deserves." His hand found mine one last time. "Or I destroy this drive and take my secrets to my grave. Your choice, Agent." The sun was rising over Lake Michigan, painting the water gold and rose. Around us, federal agents waited for orders. Sharpshooters held their positions. The city was waking to news of our failed escape. But standing there, hand in hand, I realized something fundamental had shifted. We weren't running anymore. We were facing the truth together. Whatever came next, prison, witness protection, separate futures, we'd chosen honesty over escape, chosen each other over survival, chosen love over everything else that should have mattered more. Morrison made the call. Stand down. We're taking them in for negotiation. As FBI agents moved to cuff us gently, this time, like we were already something other than criminals, Victor leaned close enough to whisper in my ear. "Thank you," he said, "for seeing me, for staying, for being brave enough to love a monster." "You're not a monster," I whispered back. "Not anymore. Maybe you never were. Maybe." His smile was sad, genuine, free. Or maybe I just needed someone to believe I could be more. They led us away from the boat, away from freedom, toward whatever justice looked like for people like us. But our hands stayed linked the entire way. And somehow, impossibly, that felt like victory. CX month later, the coffee shop in Portland was nothing like Chicago. Quieter, softer, rain instead of snow. I'd been Sarah Mitchell for half a year now. New name, new face, new life, built from the ashes of the old one. Victor's testimony had brought down 17 corrupt officials, dismantled 3 criminal organizations, and resulted in the largest RICO case in federal history. In exchange, he'd gotten 20 years instead of life. Eligible for parole in 12 with good behavior, I'd gotten immunity, witness protection, and the freedom he'd sacrificed himself to secure. We weren't supposed to have contact. It violated the terms of my protection, could compromise his case, risked everything we'd both survived. But once a month, a letter arrived at my P.O. box. No return address, just his handwriting and words that felt like coming home. "Sophia, they tell me I'm a model prisoner." Ironic, considering I built an empire on breaking rules. But I follow them now. Every day, every moment, because following rules means surviving long enough to see you again. The attorney says with good behavior and your continued testimony, I might make parole in 10 years instead of 12. 10 years feels both infinite and impossibly short. I think about that morning on the dock often. The choice you made to stay. I've had 6 months to understand what that meant. Not that you loved me, though I'm grateful for that, but that you believed I could be better than what I was. You were right. Every day here, I choose to be the man you saw in me, instead of the monster everyone else knew. It's harder than running an empire, harder than surviving betrayal, harder than anything I've ever done, but it's worth it. Because somewhere in Portland, they let me know the city, at least, you're building a life, writing, I hope, living free of shadows and blood and the weight of my choices. That's enough. Knowing you're okay, that has to be enough. Until parole, V. I folded the letter carefully, tucking it into the box with the others. Then I pulled out my own paper and pen and began to write. Victor, 10 years isn't forever. I'll wait. 2. Outside, rain fell on a city that didn't know my real name. Inside, I carried the truth of who I was and who I'd chosen to love. It wasn't the ending either of us had planned, but it was honest. And after everything, all the lies, all the deaths, all the deleted messages that might have saved us, honesty felt like the only thing worth having. I sealed the envelope and stepped out into the rain. 10 years. I could wait 10 years. For the man who'd seen the worst of himself and chosen to be better. For the monster who'd become human. For Victor,